It's old school, it's classic, it's simple, it's Guerlain Vetiver. My opinion, one of the very best vetiver-based fragrances on the market. It's been around since 1959. This stuff has stood the test of time, and if you're into perfumery at any level, I feel like you need to know about this one. So if you're interested in knowing more about this gem of a fragrance, stick around, check out this review. This ain't your grandpa's cologne. Actually, it very well could be. Welcome back to Real Scent Review. I'm here to present to you guys Vetiver by Guerlain. This is the 2000 reformulated version of the 1959 classic. For pretty obvious reasons, I am not able to get my hands on a 1959 vintage version, but I'm here to tell you why you still need to know about this one if you're a collector. Vetiver is one of the most widely used fragrance ingredients. It has many different smells depending on the concentration, depending on what part of the world the vetiver is from, depending on what other ingredients the vetiver is mixed with, for example. But this one here is where it all started. Back in 1959, it was released in a bottle that looked like this. And between 1959 and the year 2000, that original version, now called the vintage version, had several different bottle changes until we arrive at 2000. The reformulated version of the 1959 classic was released in this bottle. And again in 2012, the bottle was redesigned and it looked like this. The same thing happened again in 2017, where we get this bottle. And in 2022, the most recent bottle design was released. All right, let's begin, shall we? Solid green box with a green square in the middle that says the name of the company. And down here, we can see the concentration. On the back, we have the ingredients. On the bottom, we have the batch code. If you can see it pressed into this barcode here. The bottle, I'm not a fan of these new Guerlain bottles. The classic Guerlain fragrances like Habit Rouge, L'Instant, for example, they've all been re-released in these new bottles here. Just solid squares, transparent, you know, minimalist square, giving the name of the company and the name of the fragrance here on the front of the bottle. I just don't really like these new bottles. But anyway, it's what's on the inside that counts, right? The bottom here, we have the size, concentration, and the batch code. The cap here, pretty solid. It's a heavy cap. It feels like it's made out of plastic, but it might have some sort of metal on the inside of it. It does feel heavy. There's a heft to it. Then we can see the Guerlain symbol here on the top. Really cool looking. The same Guerlain symbol can be found on the top of the atomizer. So all in all, the cap is pretty good. Clicks into place, but still, the bottle's very heavy, very solid. I wouldn't want to pick this up by the cap just to be safe. My favorite part, let's get a couple of sprays out. Great atomizer. Regardless of how the bottles look nowadays, the atomizers are still pretty good. So the official note breakdown that we get is pretty complicated. I'm not even gonna give you all of the notes because there's so many of them. So the official note breakdown condensed is the following. In the top we get bergamot, tobacco, lemon, and nutmeg. In the mid we get vetiver, carnation, orris root, sandalwood. And in the base we get vetiver, oak moss, myrrh, and civet. Now the notes that I actually detect in this fragrance are the following. In the top, I definitely get a big blast of neroli, a big blast of tobacco, and there's definitely some bergamot in there too. In the mid, I get more neroli, a heavy hit of vetiver, and definitely some black pepper as well. And in the dry down, it's more neroli, more vetiver, definitely some oak moss. Now I also think I detect something along the lines of civet as well, and I'm gonna explain that in a second. So if you guys are familiar with my channel, you will know that I love soapy accords and fragrances. And in the top, I definitely get a big blast of neroli. So neroli, this particular rendition of neroli starts off as a very bitter orange blossom type of scent here. Very green, sharp, and that's mixed with some earthy, dry tobacco. And also, just to add an uplifting bit of freshness to it, it's bergamot. But it's not the type of bergamot, for example, that's used in the opening of Dior Sauvage. That, for example, is very abrasive. It's very, very rindy. It's almost metallic and kind of staticky, if that makes any sense. This one here is kind of almost like a sweeter, far more natural smelling bergamot. Very interesting here, definitely leans old school as well. I find most modern fragrances use bergamot in a way that's very fuzzy and uplifting, whereas I find more classic fragrances tend to use a more natural smelling bergamot note, this one included. Okay, so in the mid, I still get that neroli. Now the orangey type of bitter part of the neroli is now starting to die down, and the soapy quality of the neroli is starting to make itself prominent. And we're also smashed with a huge dose of vetiver. The vetiver in this one is very sharp, it's very astringent, it's very bitter. It might be quite divisive for a lot of people. I'm gonna go over that later as well. And of course, those two are also met with a little bit of black pepper, just to add a little bit of spice to it, a little bit of pepperiness. And in the bottom, more neroli, more of that sharp vetiver, and it's mixed with a little bit of oak moss, and the oak moss gives it a kind of crispy, woody bitterness in the bottom. Now, I'm pretty sure I detect a little bit of civet in this. Now, for those of you who don't know what civet is, you can look that up. It's used in a lot of classic fragrances. Sometimes, depending on the concentration used, it can be very pungent, very animalic. But a lot of times it's very diluted and it's used to add slight animalic, warm muskiness to usually floral notes or grassy notes sometimes. So in this case, the neroli and the vetiver, I think, are being a little bit amplified by a slight bit of musky animalic civet. Civet is part of the original Guerlain vetiver from 1959 as well. I don't know what that original version smells like, but I would imagine that probably that original version contained more civet than this one. Okay, so the vetiver, as the name suggests, is going to be the star of the show here. Vetiver comes in, like I said, so many different forms. It can take on very different scents. This one here, I think, stays true to the true vetiver smell. Very grassy, very bitter, clean at the same time though. This particular version of vetiver has a totally old school quality to it. This is not going to appeal to any guys under the age of 30. It's a classic fragrance. It's an amazing fragrance, but it's not going to appeal to everybody. However, if you're, let's say, over the age of 30, I think you might get some enjoyment or at least some appreciation out of this one. This was one of the first fragrances to start the vetiver trend. Released in 1959, it's still sold to this day, and I have to say, it's amazing. It's super classy, super gentlemanly. I think it dresses up more than it dresses down, but at the same time, I think you could wear this in a white t-shirt and jeans on a summer's day, whatever. Perfect for any type of weather, although maybe the cold days of winter would kind of kill the citrusy notes and the grassy notes in this. So let's say probably suitable for any type of weather except for like really cold weather. But any other time, I think this is gonna work perfectly. I don't think this is the most versatile fragrance out there, but at the same time, I don't think it's anywhere near the least versatile either. Any formal event, you could wear this, regardless of the level of formality, let's say. And if you're older, you could definitely wear this on a date as well. But that last one there is more so directed to middle-aged guys, I would think, because I don't think many young women are going to enjoy this. In fact, every woman close to my age hates this one. But you know what? I wear this for myself. And it's a classic example of perfumery, and it's essential, I think, to any level of collector. Even if you're young, starting out, I think you should pick this one up and just keep it in the closet. Maybe you don't like it right away. It is old school, but I still think that you need to know about this one because this really started the whole vetiver trend. And hey, if you like sharp, citrusy, grassy scents that dry down into kind of like a spicy soapiness with a slight animalic tinge, you're gonna love this one. In fact, I think there's no better one on the market if you're into those accords that I've just described. But definitely test this one out, which isn't hard because I think most perfumeries carry this one. Every perfumery I've ever been to carries this one, so it should be quite easy for you to sample before you buy it. I just think this one is incredible. I just think that a lot of younger noses out there don't really have the experience to appreciate this type of classic perfumery here. That's not an insult, don't get me wrong. I remember when I was far younger, I had a very, very limited taste in fragrances. And the more I've learned about fragrances, the more I've discovered, the more I appreciate different notes, the more fragrances I find myself coming to really enjoy. And if you're really into perfumery and you're collecting and you're sampling and you're researching, I think it's not unreasonable to assume that that will also happen to you. So, like I said, classic perfumery here. Now the performance is above average. As far as projection, I get probably an hour and a half around elbows length projection. And by the end of the second hour, it becomes a skin scent mostly. But the longevity on this is pretty solid. I get between 7 to 8 hours. Nothing wrong with that at all. In my opinion, it's definitely above average, and people will notice this on you. It's a little bit on the pricey side. So on FragranceNet right now, you can get a 100 milliliter bottle for $98 US. I think it's absolutely worth it. I have a feeling many of you would kind of reserve this for special occasions. I don't know, some people might use this as a signature scent to wear every day. It differs, but I feel like a lot of people would choose to wear this as sort of a special occasion scent. And if that's the case, this should last you a very long time. Anyway, guys, that's been my review of this beautiful classic fragrance, Vetiver by Guerlain. If you don't know about this one, please go check it out, regardless of what level collector you are. However, I gotta say, if you're above 30 and you're a male and you have a decent collection and you don't have this, go pick this up. Don't even think about it. And like I said, even if you're a younger collector, I still think you need to know about this one. Go out, sample it. If you feel like it, pick it up and sit on it till later. Anyway, guys, at the end of the day, it's up to you. Those are my thoughts on this phenomenal fragrance. I hope you've enjoyed my review. Until next time, keep it real.